Okay, can I have a motion to come out of executive session?
Move that motion. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Is there a motion to hire a planning board secretary?
I make that motion to hire, how to say her last name, I'm gonna mess it up. Her name is Linda Dokowitz, as the planning board of adjustment acting secretary. The amount is recommended at $20,000 annually. May I have a second?
Second.
Comment? Roll call?
Perez,
Yes.
Siegel,
Yes.
Miliani,
Yes.
Valari,
Yes.
Toriello.
Yes. Now, can I have a motion to hire Mary Ann Marquetta as deputy registrar assistant?
I'll make the motion.
Go ahead, with dollars.
Yeah, let me, as I was saying, at $15 an hour, starting at around 20 hours per week, and with the flexibility to go up to 25 hours per week if operational needs dictate.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Comment? Roll call?
Perez,
No.
Siegel,
Absolutely not.
Miliani,
Yes.
Valari,
Yes.
Toriello.
Yes. Okay, that brings us to our final matter this evening, which is to discuss the Rice notice of Sharon Brown. She has requested that this discussion take place in open public session, so to honor her request, we are not discussing the matter in executive session, which would typically be the course of action. As you all know, last year, we started January 1st this year with a $205,000 deficit, excluding the $300,000 that was borrowed from the sewer surplus, which also has to be repaid. So we are facing really a $500,000 hole that requires tough decisions as a result of the way that our finances were handled in the past. And although some members of this committee were not part of the decisions which led to that hole, nevertheless, the residents of Greenwich and the taxpayers expect us to address this fiscal situation. It requires us to re-examine wherever possible to provide cost savings to the taxpayer. And additionally, we had eliminated a position of deputy registrar last year, which again, the law requires that we have a deputy registrar. We've taken care of that step tonight by filling that need, and now Greenwich Township's operation is now in accord with New Jersey legal requirements. So we have a deputy registrar. We've also now have the ability to utilize her on a part-time basis at $15 an hour. And as you also know, you've read in the paper, really under the leadership of Deputy Mayor Miliani, we were able to enter into a shared services agreement with Alpha, which brought us a CFO treasurer, which again, historically, and most municipalities have a CFO treasurer in one job function, and the statute allows that. For reasons unknown, we had hired a CFO and taken that job responsibility of treasurer away, and we're paying someone else to discharge the responsibilities of treasurer. The new shared services agreement that we entered into with Alpha not only saw us hire a CFO at a lower rate of $35,000 versus $37,500, but she also assumed the responsibilities of treasurer and also voluntarily assumed the responsibilities of overseeing sewer collection, which under our prior or current operation, we were also paying someone else to oversee. So, just reviewing the facts, under Resolution 2011-62, which was adopted by last year's Township Committee. There was an authorization to pay Sharon Brown $40,735 for compensation as treasurer, payroll administrator, and sewer collector. She was also paid an additional $15,000, as deputy tax collector, or pursuant to the resolution, payment from the taxpayer in the amount of $55,735. The resolution that I've just cited to you notwithstanding, her W-4 earnings actually revealed that she received compensation in the amount of $57,144.06. In discussing with our current CFO, she confirms that Sharon Brown receives a payment of $783.36 for sewer collector, or $20,367.36 per annum for that responsibility. She also confirms, the CFO, that Sharon Brown receives a payment of $829.67. This is by, every 2 weeks, for treasurer and payroll administrator, or $21,571.42, for a combined payment of $41,938.78, plus an additional $15,000 to serve as a deputy tax collector, or an amount totaling $56,938.78. This is $205.28 less than what the W-4 reveals that she actually made, and it's $1,409.06 in payment more than what was authorized by last year's resolution. That notwithstanding, if you look at the old operation, or the way that we were set up last year with the old CFO, and I'm going to keep the benefits and pension out of it. We don't even need to get into that. Under the old way, we paid 100% of the pension to the CFO. Now we pay 40%. So that's less, but we're going to keep those numbers aside.
That's incorrect.
Excuse me, let me finish.
Oh, okay.
If I have to get the contract, I'll get the contract. We now pay 40% of the pension, where the old way, we didn't. But knowing that that might be an issue, that's why I say let's exclude that, okay? Because the numbers are very telling. $37,500 for the former CFO, $41,938.78 for treasurer, sewer collector, and the admin position, plus $15,000 as a deputy tax collector, plus the additional $205.28, which we know was paid on the W-4, but there's a discrepancy. That our operation then cost the taxpayer $94,644.06. That was actually paid last year. Under our new proposal, it would be $35,000 for the CFO. That $35,000 would also include the treasurer, which we used to pay an additional $20,000 on top of the $37,500, coupled with her providing assistance in overseeing the sewer collection, which she has experience in, and she's going to provide automation, so we won't need to rely upon the manpower for that moving forward. It's more temporary. So you take $35,000 plus under what we've just adopted now in hiring Mary Ann at a part-time rate. Again, we said 20 hours, possibly working up to 25. Let's just say $15 an hour. If you did 20 hours, it would be under, but let's just say $18,000, because it might go above 20 hours. You add 35 and 15, that's now under the operation. It would cost $53,000 to the taxpayer. That represents an actual savings per annum of $41,644.06. And over the course of the shared services agreement, we have saved the taxpayer $83,288.12. This proposal, in terms of having Mary Ann replace Sharon Brown's functions at literally half the cost, coupled with the realignment of job duties, and again, recognizing that this committee has to undertake tough choices because of the fiscal hole that we are in, that we have to climb out of. This will represent, I mean, we're not talking about a few dollars here. This is a real substantial savings to the taxpayer. It also addresses our operational need. We were not compliant by having a deputy registrar. We now have a deputy registrar and we are compliant. It also provides the flexibility, having a part-time help without triggering obligations of having to pay health benefits, which when all these part-time positions were cobbled together, it actually triggered that responsibility to the taxpayer. And we won't have that obligation under this proposal, and we will, be able to provide the government services that you deserve and expect and require at a fiscally responsible approach. And this to me, when you view this overall proposal, is a significant and real savings to the taxpayer. And I strongly recommend that, again, if our fiduciary obligation is to the taxpayer, and I suggest we owe a fiduciary obligation to no other, that this, I would strongly recommend that we consider the termination of Sharon Brown, and that we move forward with this new operation.
So, can I comment now, or please?
I'm done.
If you're comparing apples to apples, why are we not talking about the cost of pension and health care for the new CFO and treasurer?
Because I've just showed you that there's an $83,000 difference. If you would suggest that health benefits and pension would bridge an $83,000 gap, I'd be happy to discuss it, but I think, now you asked a question, let me finish answering, in fairness to me. I think that that is a discussion that is not helpful. It doesn't get to the issue, and I think that it's playing politics. I've just shown you an $83,000 savings.
Okay, Joe, I would prefer that you don't get into saying we're playing politics, because I'm not playing politics, all right? So what I would like to know here, because we haven't talked about these dollars before, this is the first discussion we're having on this. For some reason, I don't know what, I'm not sure when these decisions were made. In fact, I'd like to ask the question, when a meeting was had, or when this was discussed, that these decisions were made, that we're hiring Mary Ann Marquetta, that we're terminating Sharon Brown. When were those decisions made? And before you answer that, I'd like to understand the breakout again of the savings of the $83,000, because I didn't get that, so I'd like to be able to really detail that out. And I'd like you to take it slowly so I want to understand the savings.
First of all, I've just read the savings into the record. I'll be happy to provide you.
Now, I would like you to repeat it for me, please.
No, I'm not going to. I've given you the breakout, and I will give it to you in writing. And as to the decision
How about in front of the public,
well,
ask the question?
let me ask you. Let me answer your question. You asked when the decision was made to terminate Sharon Brown.
Yes, I'd like to.
How long have you been an elected official?
This is going on 5 years.
So you know how a government meeting works, correct?
Oh, I know how a government
Okay.
meeting
Have we
works.
voted on it yet? Have we voted?
Usually, the
have we
committee
voted on it?
discusses things like this
And
before
what are
we
we
vote.
and what are we doing now, Tanya?
Oh,
What are we
I'm
doing
asking-
now?
I'm asking
What are we
the
doing
question,
now?
Joe.
I understand, but you said when was the decision made? And I
You're
would
coming
commend
forward with
you.
a recommendation.
That's right. So
When
let's
were
stick with
those
the facts.
discussions had?
We're having them now. That's
No,
what we're
as
having.
part
a
of
meeting.
the way government runs, you're not allowed to have a meeting outside of these meetings.
That's right. That's why we're having a
When
meeting
were
now.
those decisions made? When were these discussions had?
Tonight,
Tonight, when?
right now. We're having them right now.
So
Here's
you're
one of the
asking-
numbers. I'm not reading them again into the record. I'll be happy to provide you with a copy. But is there anything else that you'd like to add?
Don't continue yet, because I have other questions. Because I need time, before we close this meeting out, I need to go through these numbers, since I haven't seen them before, okay?
Sure.
All right, because I think if you are comparing apples, you're saying a savings of $83,000, yet you're not taking into consideration health care and pension costs of the new CFO and treasurer, and you're saying that we paid 100% of the last CFO's pension? She didn't take health care, and you're saying we paid 100% of her pension. Who told you that?
I'm saying we're paying 40% of the new, and again, the numbers are there, Tanya, You clearly have an agenda to protect, your fiduciary obligation is clearly not to the people
Joe,
who
don't
elected
tell me
you.
what I'm doing. I'm
Well,
asking,
the
this is
people
a
can watch it
discussion.
for
This is
yourself.
the meeting for us to have the discussion, so I
well,
need to have the discussion.
Then let's
okay?
discuss and let's not you yell at me.
Okay, I'm not
we're
yelling.
gonna do
All right,
that.
so
That's number
okay,
one.
so I'll
Number
lower my
two,
voice.
thank you. Number two, again, the fiduciary obligations to the taxpayer, it's not to Sharon Brown, no disrespect, I understand that the decision, I understand the consequences of what it is, but we have an obligation to serve the entire community, and I have put forth my proposal, I have put forth a detailed analysis of the numbers, by the way, which were confirmed by our current CFO. She had an opportunity to review them, and our CFO has indicated that to the penny, the numbers are correct. If you take exception with it, if you're uncomfortable with it, I would suggest that you vote no.
Joe, hold on a second. You said that we paid 100% of the last CFO's pension. You just said that. I'm asking, who told you that? Where did that come from?
Do you have anything else to add to the
Joe,
discussion?
I'm asking a question. I think I deserve an
Actually,
answer.
you're not. You're kind of, no.
Okay.
You have the
Okay,
numbers.
so then, all right.
You have the numbers.
Then I, couple things.
I've indicated the analysis is without
Okay,
regard to
so let
health
me
benefits.
finish, let me finish, okay? I have a correction for the last meeting on January 19th. You, Joe, said at the last meeting that under my leadership, the CFO and treasurer job was split out and that I obligated the taxpayers for an additional resource. Although I'd like to take credit, to be honest with you, for moving Sharon Brown over into the role of treasurer, because let me tell you something. She is an exemplary employee, and she did an outstanding job. It was Elaine who did that. I'd like to take credit for that, but Elaine did that. At the last meeting, you looked for me as an explanation for that, but Elaine sat there and didn't say a word, knowing that she split those two jobs. So I would like to ask Elaine now, what was your rationale for splitting those jobs?
Tanya, I did not split the jobs. It was a recommendation made by Grace, and it was a recommendation made when you were mayor. I did not want.
Oh, no, this was in 2009.
Well, then we'll have to get where we voted on the treasurer and whatever separated out.
So a couple other questions. For this operational review, which I thought when we talked about this, we would be getting together as a committee to discuss it, which we didn't. Who was rice noticed for this meeting?
I will defer to council for that.
Sharon Brown.
Okay. Who and how was the decision made that it would only be Sharon Brown?
I will defer to council for that. That was council's.
So our new labor attorney made the decision on who was going to be rice noticed?
Based upon what I was told about the reorganizational meeting, Ms. Brown was to be rice noticed because of the decision that was gonna potentially affect her.
So who asked you about that? Who told you that it was only Sharon?
I've had various discussions with Mayor Toriello, yourself, and Ms. Viscomi about the rice notices for tonight.
Okay.
And I believe there was 3 other names that you
Yes,
sent
I
out
did.
as
I
well.
made a request, who should be rice noticed from my perspective, and that didn't happen.
Well, the other 2 people that, and this is a discussion we had yesterday, Tanya, on the phone, that the other 2 persons that you requested to be rice noticed weren't being discussed, their jobs weren't affected, and it was not what was considered a rice noticeable event, therefore they were not rice noticed.
Okay, and the one for performance wasn't rice noticed either.
There's an ongoing investigation has to occur with that's a personnel matter. I don't think we should discuss it at this time.
Okay. And then as far as decisions on restructure of work, when did you meet to discuss the restructure of work? And who was involved?
We're discussing it tonight, Tanya. That's my answer. Next question.
No, I'm asking a question. When did you meet?
I know there was
To
no
discuss
formal
it.
discussion when we talked about this downstairs. When Joe and I were running, we were not on the township committee, we were courteously invited to an executive session on budgeting that Bruce kindly put on for us to give us a heads up as to where we were with the budget in the past and where we were going in the future and what possible holes there were. Upon leaving that meeting, and I believe it was November 30th, or it was the end of November, it was in the firehouse, Joe and I left that meeting, we're not elected officials, and we said, wow, we got a huge hole we got to fill. We got to do something. We went down to the League of Municipalities on our own dime. We We went down there, we learned a lot about financing, how to consolidate, we talked to a lot of mayors, we talked to the head of the LOM. We discussed many options on how to close budget holes and how to do certain things to save money, shared services, which we attacked, and we saved money there. So there was discussions back then between Joe and I. It wasn't a formal discussion. I didn't sit there and say, well, this person we need to get rid of and this, that. At that time, I didn't know anybody on the town, in the township building. I mean, Sharon, I haven't had the pleasure of getting to know you over the last year and what's been going on, but we're not dealing with, we're not looking at it as an employee basis. And my approach, and I won't speak for you, Joe, is that when I ran, I told everyone here that I was gonna work for, especially when you work for a small municipality, I'm working for the taxpayer, in the end. And I'm not working for an individual employee of the town. As much as I'd love to do that, you know what, like you do in HR, you explain that you have to constantly do things that are fiscally responsible for the company. You let go people. I let go people, 15 people for the total of $900,000 this year, and quite frankly, it was horrible. But I had to do what I had to do because that's what the corporation had to do. It had to protect its shareholders. And here, the shareholders are the taxpayers, and that's who I inevitably have to protect, and that's what I ran on, and that's what I think, as long as we gotta protect the fiduciary responsibility that we agreed, and that's why. So, getting to the point where you're saying where did the discussion start, and it happened way before Joe and I ever stepped up.
Well, for me, it's
It
not
wasn't, and it
personal
wasn't
either.
specific, there were no names associated
So
with
it's
it, it was
not,
dollars.
exactly, it's dollars. There's no names associated for me either, and I understand that you discussed it, made decisions strictly based upon the restructure of work. But when was the decision made, and who was it discussed with to hire Marion Marqueta? When was that decision made? And
It was tonight, you were here, we just voted on it, when you said absolutely not. Remember, we just voted on it
but
tonight.
you came to the table with that recommendation.
Right.
When did that discussion take place?
I don't know, Tanya, and I honestly, you know, this is not the first time where you've asked questions and you wanna have meetings on meetings. It seems like you wanna get into my head and know what I'm thinking, exactly what I'm thinking it. The point is, we have a transparent government, and ideas and things are put on the agenda, they're discussed, and they're voted on. And that vote has carried. She has now been hired, and I would suggest that, in the fact that we have, the taxpayers are paying for 2 attorneys to be here tonight, that you move on. And we discuss things that have not been voted on.
Are we allowed to talk about, reference anything that was said in executive?
No.
Not even reference it?
Well,
I'm
I'm
trying
sorry,
to,
Tom.
I guess at some point we found out we're non-compliant with the law, correct? We're non-compliant with the law. So I guess that's when it came up, when I guess we discussed with Kim, who did it in the past. And I think that's where we tabled, well, it was Marion Marqueta who previously held that position. My question is, why did we get rid of her? I mean, if she was a certified municipal registrar, why did we get rid of her in the first place and expose ourselves? And that's what I'm trying to get at. I don't want to broach too much into.
Well, I'd like to say a couple things. The ordinance that was passed that all jobs be advertised was amended and adopted at the last meeting. As you know, we had a lengthy conversation as to why we would not want to advertise all jobs. Elaine came up with the excuse that it had to do with emergency hiring for the snow removal on the DPW. And you know, the interesting thing is, now we find ourselves at the special meeting hiring a part-time employee that the job wasn't advertised for. And I just would like to go back to, first of all, as far as the deputy registrar, we can name a deputy registrar from another town. We don't have to hire another employee. If the residents and the taxpayers and reducing budget was really at the core of this, there'd be a hiring freeze in place. We wouldn't be hiring someone else. We might be laying somebody off, but we wouldn't be hiring somebody, because that's real cost reduction, right? No, we're hiring somebody. And the other thing, let me just say here, I just want to go back to Elaine, a statement that you made at the end of the year, where you said that performance shouldn't decide future employment. Now, I know around restructure and elimination of work, of course, performance doesn't come into it, but how absurd is a statement like that, that performance shouldn't decide future employment? Performance should be the foremost on your mind when you are either hiring or rehiring an employee. And to have somebody already in mind for the job and hire, change the ordinance so that you don't have to advertise for it, not consider those fully qualified employees out there that might apply for it, and hire because you're saying you need to name a deputy registrar. You need to name a deputy registrar to meet state requirements. That can easily be done. Mayor Harry Wyant from Phillipsburg said that we could use his deputy registrar, we could name her as our deputy registrar. So the fact that you're using that as the excuse to hire another employee is absurd. So I just want to go on record as stating that. So to me, it's like, we're going to get rid of an exemplary employee, and we're going to retain poor performers or hire somebody that's not the fully qualified person. Maybe Mary Ann is, I'm not saying, but we're not even looking at anybody else. We're boxing ourselves into a
Okay,
corner.
is there anything, is it, wait, Tom, wait.
In reference to that.
Let me just answer the part about, and I'm just going to make a statement, I'm not, we discussed over and over, and we still keep referring to the fact that we took action on an ordinance. The action on the ordinance was primarily because the residents of this town need to have people here to get jobs done, whether it's snow removal or whatever. There is such a thing as a list of employees who do work for this town for snow removal, but they are not capable of being just hired for no reason. They're still part-time employees that we would have to go out to hire. There isn't a prior approval that they can go and just be an employee. I'm not sure where you would think that that was okay to do. So what we did was we backed it up a little bit so that we could have some flexibility. Did we back it up that we would never want to hire or go out to advertise? No, the answer is no. But we had to do something in the event that there was a problem with snow. Did I contact Mr. Carney? Absolutely did, because after I read through the ordinance for the second time and I thought about that, I needed to make sure that the residents and the school, by the way, was covered to make sure that they did have that opportunity for the shared service agreement so we could have people justly doing their job. Second of all, when it comes to the deputy registrar, several times throughout the year when we had eliminated the position, it was brought up to you that we needed to have a deputy registrar here. We needed to have somebody here in place, and that even though we could put this person's name on our paperwork for Trenton, that person couldn't come here and do the job. And if Kim was not here, that person wasn't here. And we couldn't get the things done that we needed to get done. And nor could there be a backup when Kim didn't have anybody here, when she wasn't here. So that fell on deaf ears. So when the person was downsized out, as far as I was concerned, I don't know of any type of lack of abilities and or other that you're referring to. So, you know, it is what it is. You know, Kim suggested that we go down this route, talk to Joe, and